live on your side. First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
And right now, we show you some video from our sister station WVUE and WAFB out of Louisiana as Francine moved through those areas yesterday. This is from Morgan City, where the cleanup process is beginning for those areas today. Actually, you can see some of the aftermath there. Some of the, I'll tell you what, this was a powerful storm. It moved through New Orleans last night. I was watching some of the social media feeds from our sister station Channel 8 out in New Orleans. Yeah. Lots of flooding in that area.
Oh, yeah, and that could be an issue for us too, because the rain is not gone yet.
Yeah, the rain is not gone yet. Of course, we have baseball on WBRC right now, so if you are joining us, certainly want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel for this special edition here of First Alert Weather Extra.
And give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, give it a thumbs up, right, so you get those notifications. Yeah. Let's go to the next big thing. We're going to spend some time with you here over the next 30 minutes. We're going to talk a lot about this tornado watch that's in effect. We're still dealing with those impacts from the tropical system Francine. And I mentioned New Orleans last night. I noticed there was a wind report at the airport of 78 miles per hour. So they did end up with some of those hurricane force winds down along the coast. It's been windy all day for us around here. And as we told you, a concern that we could see an isolated tornado. So with those conditions becoming more favorable, some counties have been included, including Tuscaloosa, Jefferson, Shelby, Chilton, Coosa counties, and Bibb counties as well. Perry County also in that tornado watch, which will be in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. So far, so good, but we're watching it. Yeah, as you can see over Chilton County especially, it's a bit more unstable here to the south, but you look at all these little cells that are popping up here. You can see little, almost like they have little curls where we're seeing those rotation signatures there. It's weak, broad rotation, but it's there. If we flip over and show you where we have the spin with these storms, you can see moderate to strong in some of those areas. So they are really trying to spin up down to the south, and we need to watch this, just be on our toes in case we do have a warning, we can take immediate action. I'll often say with these tropical systems, sometimes you'll be watching these setups. You get the rain, the wind through most of the day, and then all of a sudden there's a warning for 15 minutes. I mean, that's the kind of setup that you deal with. But these are capable of producing tornadoes. I mean, you can see EF0, EF2 type tornadoes. We've seen that before with systems like this. But it's doing, you know, we talked about this yesterday. It's doing what we expected with this boundary setting up here. This is that band of moisture, kind of a conveyor belt of tropical moisture that's wrapping into the center of what's left of Francine. It's a weaker tropical depression. The center is way out here towards Memphis, so it's west of Alabama, in fact northwest of Alabama right now. But like a machine, as that low pressure just spins, not just tonight but tomorrow, Saturday as well, it's going to continue to draw in some of these showers from the south. So we're going to see more of this tonight and tomorrow. And if you haven't seen much rain today, this is far from over. As I was saying earlier, there's going to be more development, more of these pockets of rain that's going to be lifting north, and that's why we're so concerned about that flood risk, and we have a flood watch that's in effect for our area. But it's been a crawl as far as moving west to east across the state. We started out this little band of rain that you're seeing right now on radar, First Alert AccuTrack. This started out around lunchtime. We were tracking this around Tuscaloosa, and it's just now making its way into the metro of Birmingham. So East Alabama, if you haven't seen much today, and I had someone that messaged me from Blount County, said, Wes, our rain amounts have been rather light today. There's more to come, I promise you, later on tonight and into the day tomorrow. A lot of this wet weather. This is the view back in towards Tuscaloosa County, where we're still seeing some of that heavy rainfall. And Lauren noted earlier, we brought in some of the rainfall rates with this. We're seeing 4, 5, 6 inches rainfall rate. So with that kind of rain coming down in a short amount of time, could certainly cause some trouble spots in those areas. But looking at rain overspreading Shelby, Jefferson County now, and if there's one area with respect to the tornado threat that we're most concerned about, really need to watch what's happening in Chilton County over the next few scans. See what happens there with some of those storms. That isolated tornado risk will continue. The watch is actually in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. More rain through tomorrow, so that means we will need to monitor for flooding. The flood watch actually continues through tomorrow. But meteorologist Lauren Linehan standing by. Lauren, you've also been monitoring some of those wind speeds today. It was interesting to note we had winds over 39 miles per hour in some areas.
Yeah, and that alone, Wes, signifies that it has verified seeing tropical storm force gusts, at least across parts of our area. With those tropical storm force gusts, even gusts that didn't get up to tropical storm force, they were potent all on their own, and that's why we actually have some scattered power outages across our area. I think at one point today we saw in Jefferson County up to 8,000 power outages earlier when those winds were really potent. Not to say they're not potent now, but we certainly heard them howling here on Red Mountain a few hours ago. You can see over in Lamar County, Tuscaloosa County, about 1,000 to 1,500 power outages that are being estimated, and then another 1,000 power outages around Walker County over into areas like Calhoun County. So we'll continue to watch tonight and keep an eye on these numbers. Just know that the wind advisory, it's still in effect until midnight for tonight. So make sure if you're at home, if you're like me and your battery's running a little bit low, probably need to plug it in right over here, that your devices are charged just in case we do see some more scattered power outages. But as Wes was noting, you know, it's not just today. We're still going to be seeing the possibility of breezy conditions tomorrow. It's not going to be quite as blustery, but we're also going to be seeing that potential as we get into the weekend as well for more rain in the forecast. But we do want to check in on some of the damage we've been seeing across our area with these blustery winds that have been coming through. So we're going to turn now to check in with meteorologist Tania Michelle on any pictures we've been getting in on social media or the weather app, Tania.
Oh yeah, this is what I want to show. These are images, Lauren, from those that sent them in to us on the weather app. I'm going to zoom in here. This one shows a downed tree, and this was over in it doesn't say exactly where, but this is from Diana Daniel, and this was actually near her driveway today. She sent in this video, and you can just see this is a big tree that's been uprooted, and thankfully it looks like it just missed her vehicle. Oh my gosh, but that is so bad, and that's probably from those stronger winds that push through the area. So those winds are nothing to play with. Not only does it cause those power outages, but of course those downed trees. We also got some really cool pictures of lightning. It doesn't say exactly who this one is from, but if we scroll through them, you can actually see this lightning in the distance. Let me zoom in to give you a better view here. I mean, look how cool that is. I mean, dangerous. You definitely want to be inside and not out and about in that kind of situation. You know, we say thunder roars go indoors. That was sent in an hour ago. We have more images from 4 hours ago in Columbiana from Kevin. This is wind damage of downed trees that was over in the Columbiana area. So we got some down trees in that area, just a lot of tree damage, and even some areas like around Logan Martin Lake. You could see some damages here on this roof over towards the lake. But yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to make sure you're being safe and careful with those winds as they continue over the next several hours. Let's talk really quickly about some impacts that you can expect across central Alabama. Notice we're still going to see that slight risk and effects through the rest of your Thursday. Gusty winds are still going to be possible. Still going to hold on to that threat for an isolated tornado as that tornado watch is still in effect for the following counties: Tuscaloosa, Jefferson, Shelby, Bibb, Perry, Chilton, even Coosa County there. Again, central Alabama, you still want to be on alert as that main line of that heavy rain and those winds are pushing through right now as we speak. But we'll continue to give you more updates, guys. And of course, you can always just check in with us throughout the night tonight for updates as well. But stay with us on First Alert Weather Extra. We'll have more on that 7-day coming up in just a couple of minutes.
And hey, Tania, now we'll go back and look at that wind advisory that is in place across central Alabama. We've got a few more hours with it right now. So it's in effect until midnight, and it does include all of central Alabama. It's certainly already been blustery today, and we'll continue to track southeast winds sustained at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. But as Wes was mentioning, hey, we've seen some areas get gusts up to 39 miles per hour, so still gusts up to 40 miles per hour possible. If you haven't already, maybe a little late at this point, but definitely want to make sure anything outside, like your plants, any patio furniture, anything that even with the slightest gust of wind is going to be the first thing to topple over for me. That's my hibiscus every time. Make sure it's secure here. Still with blustery conditions, even breezy for tomorrow. As we look at those current gusts, look at Birmingham. We're actually registering a 40-mile-per-hour gust here in the Magic City. It looks like winds are still breezy over in West Alabama, but the core of the more intense winds now now has shifted over into East Alabama, where we're seeing wind gusts around 20-30 miles per hour. It looks like actually registering a gust potentially around 43 miles per hour up in Oneonta. So that's the rain. Well, that's the wind we've been seeing. But now what about those potential rainfall totals? Well, you can see just over the past 24 hours alone, especially along and west of I-65, that's where we've gotten some decent rainfall. About 2.5 inches of rain estimated on radar here in Tuscaloosa, just half an inch in Birmingham, and still less than half an inch in East Alabama. But we still got more rain to come here in the days ahead, Wes. So it's not just for today, but we're talking Friday into the weekend, maybe even early next week as well.
Yeah, you know, all these tropical systems, they're unique in their own way. And I think with Francine, now that it's stalling out, this little band of rain that's setting up across Alabama, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out over the next few days. And I know we're coming off of a drought, and you know, it seems like around here we go from one extreme right to the other. But look at this. I mean, these are rainfall estimates over the next 5 to 7 days from the Weather Prediction Center, and that's showing 7 inches of rain in Coleman. 5 to 7 inches of rain, some of these areas here. What's going to happen is as this rain continues tomorrow, Saturday, and with these higher rainfall rates and slow movement to the east, just kind of training over the same area. I mentioned that conveyor belt of moisture. That's going to end up causing some issues here, flooding-wise. So Coleman, even Jefferson, this is showing parts of Blount County as well. Those areas right here in the heart of the area, based on the model guidance, we really need to watch it for that threat of flash flooding, not only tomorrow, but also for the weekend, Saturday and into Sunday. It's probably going to be Monday or Tuesday before the rain chances back off. But you can see even through tonight, there's a look at 9 o'clock. The one thing that's helping us with respect to the tornado threat right now is it's a little bit cooler for us out there. Feels a little bit warmer today. We could see warnings. I never will forget when Hurricane Rita, what was left of that system, moved through. I remember we had 11 tornado warnings in Tuscaloosa County alone, just one county, and 11 tornadoes, separate tornadoes that happened in one afternoon. So, I mean, these tropical systems can generate lots of severe weather and several tornado warnings when those conditions are just right. So, thankfully, right now, even though we have a watch, we don't have any active warnings at this point. But if we do, of course, we'll break in on WBRC. But here's the thing you need to know tomorrow: as it heats up again, that threat for isolated tornadoes will return, especially for the afternoon into the evening hours tomorrow night. So we'll need to watch it again, especially if we start seeing these upper 70s, closer to 80 degrees tomorrow. Very tropical, very humid, and you have the wind shear in the mix. That's going to be a concern. And then also notice that's Friday at 4 o'clock. So tomorrow night there will be some impacts for high school football. So yeah, grab the poncho. Some wet weather out there. Looks like another Friday night with some wet weather impacts, and certainly want to be weather alert. It is a first alert weather day, Lauren. We're going to continue that now, looks like through Friday.
Yeah, Wes. So we've been seeing some impacts here in central Alabama, but check out these views from the Mobile Causeway shared by our sister station WALA. These videos came as Francine made landfall earlier this morning. You can see the streets flooded. Man, that is a lot of water on the roads. Hoping not to see that here in the Birmingham area. But I want to show you all really quickly as we're talking about the rain that we're tracking. Let's look at where some of those areas are that we're seeing the rain. If you recall, a few hours ago, we were seeing a very distinct line moving through West Alabama, basically northeastward towards I-65. But as we've gone forward in time, it's become a little messier. So it's just not quite as organized as it had been earlier. So the tornado threat, I really think here, is going to be very isolated and still a very low threat. That watch is still in effect until 10 p.m. But I'll show you here on First Alert AccuTrack a couple of the spots that we're keeping an eye on. It's in our southern counties here in central Alabama, areas like Chilton, Coosa County. Just look at these little structures with these storms. You can just tell it looks different than that sloppy mess farther to the north. We've got these individualized discrete cells. It's almost like they're supercells. So they're rotating thunderstorms, but there's a limiting factor here. We've got wind shear in the atmosphere, so that's allowing these storms to try to rotate, very broad rotation as you go higher up into the atmosphere. But one thing that's limiting the instability or limiting the formation here is the instability, as Wes was mentioning. We had stepped outside earlier here on Red Mountain. It's like, No, it doesn't really feel like tornado weather. It's got that cooler, more stable air in place. So we'll see if these little individual cells can get going. I think these are going to be the one to watch as they push off to the north-northeast. So areas like Calera, Jemison, Sylacauga, Goodwater, Childersburg, a first alert that as these lift to the north-northeast, as they move towards Highway 231, that 280 corridor, even closer to I-65, you just want to keep a close eye on them. Of course, we're going to be watching them here in the First Alert Weather Center. But one thing I will note, let's pull up our lightning counter. Again, the instability really limited here. A lot of that instability, that juicier air is to the south, and so we aren't able to see any of these storms here necessarily firing up. Like I said, we've got the wind shear, and wind shear is that difference in wind speed and direction as you go up in height. So you have winds at the surface higher up. If you have a difference, you can get that column of air to begin to rotate and potentially produce what could be a brief spin up tornado. But thus far behaving, but we're going to keep an eye on, we almost call them little shrimps here. So you can see that shrimp-like structure on this particular cell that is moving to the north and east towards Lomax. It's about to be crossing over Highway 22. But hey, a storm doesn't have to produce an isolated tornado to be impactful. We'll get those first alert times for you because this is, oh, and it disappeared. So anyway, if you live in Lomax, Gap of the Mountain up towards Thorsby, Jumbo, this is likely going to be crossing I-65 within the next 20 minutes. And one thing to note, okay, it doesn't have any lightning. Hey, it may not have a spin up tornado, but you know what it does have? Breezy winds and some very heavy rainfall. And unfortunately, we're getting into that time of the year when the sun is beginning to set earlier and earlier. I notice it's setting before 7 o'clock now. So you've got heavy rain coming in and it's dark outside. Not great driving conditions. So I was just talking about this with Wes and Tania. This is a situation where this rain's going to be continuing overnight. And that's really what it's looking like over the next few days. We're going to see off and on rounds of rain and storm that could certainly be impacting, unfortunately, your weekend plans. Tania?
Oh yes, Lauren, that's definitely something that's going to be impacting your weekend plans. And you also need to keep in mind that we're still going to see rain throughout the weekend. So even if your area doesn't get a lot today, there will likely be trouble spots from rain that will continue tomorrow, Saturday, and even Sunday. And matter of fact, through the start of next week. But as we continue to get reports of downed trees and power lines from those winds, and as those storms move through our area, this is your reminder to not assess the damage too quickly if your home is hit by a storm. As live power lines can electrocute people, the Red Cross says you should avoid them until you see the power company and give them an all clear. And they will give an all clear. And in situations of flash flooding, just 2 feet of water can move a heavy vehicle. So as we always say, if you see water, turn around, don't drown. You also want to avoid walking through flooded waters. Below the surface, there could be broken glass and other debris. And get this, even snakes.
Oftentimes you'll see when storms come, not only does it disturb wildlife, but it may have destroyed their home and where they were living, uprooted some trees that they were living under. So you do start to see a lot of snakes come out. You don't always know if that's a poisonous snake or a harmful snake.
And you heard it right there. You don't always know. So if you have any type of reservations, turn around, don't drown, just go around it. So when you go out, make sure to wear appropriate shoes as well, like Lauren's water boots, or what do you call them? Rain boots, rain boots, thick clothing, and of course those work gloves to protect yourself.
That reminds me, I did get that fresh pair of rain boots, so I'll have to be posting them on social media later. I think you'll like them. Very stylish, but yes. Good to have the rain boots, rain gear around over the next few days. Where you see the yellow highlighted here on First Alert AccuTrack, that's where that tornado watch is still in effect until 10 p.m. I know it's been quiet now, and hey, we should be thankful for that, but there's just enough of a little bit of a chance that don't want to let our guard down, because we have, especially south of that I-20 corridor in areas like Chilton County, over into Coosa County. I mentioned we're seeing these little shrimps popping up on radar, but thus far they're behaving. We'll hope it stays that way. I do want to note here we've got some heavier rain that's kind of been back building. You can see east of Tuscaloosa near Brookwood, just to the north of Coaling. This is stretching up into Walker County. Some very heavy rain falling right along the Black Warrior River, but another good sign is we're not seeing much in the way of lightning on this. We just want to watch for that flood risk as this pushes off to the east-northeast. So I want to give you an idea of, with this area, what are we seeing in terms of rain rates. If this particular batch of rain were to not move, if it were to stay stationary over the next hour, how many inches of rain would fall? That gives us an idea of how much water is in this atmospheric column. So we'll do a little investigating here. This is almost 5 inches of rain per hour that is approaching Brookwood. Now, is it necessarily going to dump 5 inches of rain in 1 hour? No, because it's moving along. But if it were a situation where we're stationary, not moving, that's where we could see the possibility of flash flooding. But just tells you there's more moisture in the atmosphere, and I think we're going to continue to see more moisture as we go into the weekend. So keeping a close eye on things behaving right now. But I do want you to check out, this is a look from Biloxi this morning, our sister station WLOX. These are waves crashing against the sidewalk across a nearby lighthouse. The water covered the beach and came right up to the parking lot, inundating the area with sand. Wow, those waves almost look like they were glowing. But good news, the water levels have receded.
All right, Lauren, I want to go over to our weather graphics here, and let's just talk about what's on the way as we move into the next couple days. Look at these rain estimates here. A forecast rainfall total 6 to 7 inches of rain possible in some areas. So there's still a lot more wet weather on the way. That's why we have that flood watch that will continue through Friday. But here's a look at the forecast data from the this is the HRRR. One thing you can see is that the center of Francine, it's off to the north and west of us tonight, and it is weaker. It's a depression now, so this is no longer a concern for the Hurricane Center. This will be turned over to the Weather Nation's what's called the Weather Prediction Center, and they'll issue those advisories and outlooks on this system. But all the moisture that's being drawn into that low pressure system, notice it's just a steady flow here of rain from south to north. It might sort of lessen in intensity tonight, but tomorrow it starts to increase again. You can see as we get to lunchtime, here we go with that rain picking up. And even though we're catching some breaks back into West Alabama, we will start to see some scattered showers and maybe even a thunderstorm or two in the mix for tomorrow as well. And the risk is there. It's a low end risk, but isolated tornado threat that will also be there into the afternoon and evening. But this will continue. This is showing Saturday, maybe tomorrow night and into Saturday morning, some pockets of heavy rain, especially in here across East Alabama. And check it out, Saturday we have more development that happens during the day, during the afternoon, more scattered showers that develop and move south to north across the area. This leftover circulation from Francine just sort of lingers in the area, kind of wobbles around over the next few days until we get to early next week, and this phases up with a trough that's over the mid-Atlantic region, and that's going to kind of pull this thing away from us, it looks like, in the long range. But next week, still holding on to some wet weather into Monday and Tuesday, but those rain chances look to back off around Tuesday, Wednesday, and also into Thursday. High temperatures in the mid-80s, overnight lows in the 60s. This is our 10-day forecast, and by the way, on our weather app, we go out 10 days. So if you have the First Alert Weather app, you also get the 10-day forecast that we update. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, looking ahead to the following weekend, looks drier compared to this weekend, but it certainly is interesting. You know, we go from drought. In fact, we still have, according to today's drought monitor, Tania, that came out today, is showing severe drought conditions across northwest areas. But there's more rain on the way that's certainly going to help with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Wes. And I'm hoping too by this time next week we can see more of those drought conditions eliminated across central Alabama, especially since we're anticipating more wet weather tomorrow, throughout your weekend, and the start of next week. So let's take a look here at what else is happening in the tropics. Yes, we've been following Francine. Francine is now just an area of low pressure. Of course, it's still bringing us impacts from that wet weather to the wind and still that isolated tornado threat. Still got to watch it here across central Alabama, not just today, but again tomorrow. But we're watching another area of disturbance out on the East Coast. Has a low chance of development over the next week or so, 30% chance. This area right here could be bringing us a little bit more wet weather later into next week, so we need to watch that a little bit. But as of right now, nothing to be concerned about at the current moment. We have another disturbance out in the Atlantic, 30% chance. This is outside of the Lesser Antilles and the Leeward Islands, 30% again over the next 7 days. But there is a tropical depression in place. It's Tropical Depression 7. This is further out into the Atlantic, more likely in the western Eastern Atlantic, and we're watching that, of course, but no impacts from either of these disturbances or systems at the current moment here across central Alabama. I did just want to show you real quickly what that out-the-door forecast looks like for your Friday. I know many of you still going to work, still going to school, or maybe you're not going to school. Maybe you're taking your kids to school. So out the door tomorrow, still going to be pretty cloudy and gloomy. We'll hold on to that chance for rain and even some thunderstorms. Temperatures really only warming up into the 70s. It's going to be a pretty wet and gloomy day tomorrow. Those clouds will likely be around. The good news is winds will be a lot lighter. You'll still see and feel some breezes here and there. Sustained winds closer to about 10 miles per hour, shifting out of the south-southeast for your early Friday. And then as we approach the afternoon, we'll start to see more of that southerly wind. Still pretty mild throughout your afternoon tomorrow. But of course, we still got wet weather and we still need to watch it when we heat up in the afternoon for that potential of an isolated tornado again. But the storm is the first hurricane to make landfall in Louisiana since 2021's Ida, and the third hurricane to make landfall in the United States this year. Ivan Rodriguez is in Morgan City, Louisiana with the latest.
Francine is now a tropical depression here in Morgan City. A lot of the focus will turn now to damage. Behind me is the front yard of a home. You can see a tree that is snapped here in front of it, crossing over into the sidewalk. This is an image that we're seeing around town with also down power lines and also signs in the middle of streets. After making landfall Wednesday in southern Louisiana as a Category 2 hurricane, Francine is weakening and continuing to push inland, but the Pelican State is already soaked. Torrential downpours sending floodwaters down roads in several parishes.
I'm just trying to get to work. I'm sure plenty of other people are trying to get to work too, and you know, it just takes a while for this water to get out of here.
Some homes flooded.
We even had our protective dam up. We even had the sandbags up.
And all of a sudden we saw water starting to come in from all different areas of the house.
New Orleans seeing more than a month of rainfall from Francine. The storm leaving widespread power outages in its wake.
People inside right now, let the linemen and all do their jobs.
Tropical storm warnings remaining Thursday for millions across several states. Louisiana's governor calling for residents to be smart and stay safe as flooding, heavy winds, and storm surge levels up to 8 feet are still significant threats.
I want to remind all of the citizens that now is the time to begin to stay off of the roadways, stay home, and stay put.
We've already seen people coming out, inspecting the damage to their homes, beginning to clear some of that debris out. Across the state of Louisiana, more than 390,000 people remain without power. That will also be a big focus today, power restoration. In Morgan City, Louisiana, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
You know, the first thing you look at when you see a system like this, you say, well, it's a Cat 1 or a Cat 2. It's not a Cat 4 or Cat 5.
Right.
But it just shows you this one really packed a punch, especially along the Gulf Coast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know there's so many people still dealing without power, and they've got to clean up now, down trees, destruction to their homes. I mean, it's just crazy how it can come through so quick and cause so much damage, and now people have to figure out how they're gonna, you know, go about their next couple of days.
Yeah, you know, some of the worst systems we've seen come through the southeast weren't necessarily major hurricanes. Some of them can be just tropical storms, tropical depressions, because once they move inland, they can pack a punch with all of that rain, and so still got a lot of rain the days ahead.
Well, we haven't seen anything like this in a while. I mean, it's been hot, it's been humid. You know, we're breaking out of the summer pattern. And all of a sudden, it's been a windy day, winds gusting over 35 miles per hour. So that's one of the reasons why we got trees down all over the place.
I mean, and get this, the tropics have been so quiet.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. Literally, this time last week, I had an interview with one of the top hurricane researchers at Colorado State, Dr. Phil Klotzbach, and I'm like, is anything going to happen anytime soon? Well, he's like, it will eventually, and here we go.
So we blame you, right?
Yeah, it's my fault. You're welcome.
All right, well, hey, listen, the good news is we have some much needed rain out there. Hopefully this doesn't get too out of hand. We do have a flood watch through tomorrow that we're going to be watching, so check in for updates. We're back after baseball tonight. And hey, hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. We'll see you back here for Weather Extra Friday evening.